Session 11, Primary Source Documents. In this session, you will learn the importance of primary sources when it comes to studying for a research paper. However, it takes careful, close reading to be able to make sense of a primary source document. Have you ever played the game telephone? Well, we are going to play it right now, just for a moment, so that I can more easily explain something to you about research. Here is how the game of telephone works. I will whisper one sentence or message into someone's ear. That person will then pass the message along by whispering it to the next person, who will then whisper it to the next person, and so on and so forth. Make sure you whisper the message quietly so that nobody but the person being whispered to can hear it. The only other rule of the game is that you only get to hear the message once after it's told to you. You just pass on whatever it is that you hear, no matter what you hear. At this point, students should form a circle somewhere in the classroom. Teachers should reference to page 90 in the informational writing book to get the secret message for the game. Whoa, that is nothing like the message we started with. The information got completely changed as it passed from one person to another, didn't it? Everyone heard it a bit differently, or couldn't quite hear it at all, or even had to change it a little to make it make sense. That is what almost always happens when a message is passed from one person to another. There's a saying, a lot is lost in translation. Let's answer the important question. If we wanted to know the actual true sentence, who would we ask? Think pair share with the person sitting next to you. Hopefully you said your teacher or the primary source. That, my friends, is exactly what historians do too. Whenever they can, they go right to the first original source of information. That is called using primary sources. It means using the first source. The game of telephone that we just played illustrates why it is important to go back to the original sources to understand what happened a long time ago. You could see that as words are passed from one person to another, one generation to another, they can get lost in translation. The only way to eliminate that kind of confusion is to go back to the original sources. But there are some other lessons that I want you to learn about reading primary source material, because often when you're given some of these materials, your first response is to feel a little lost or confused. So we have to read more closely than we might have otherwise. Say that you are researching for your writing. You found, as I found, a document such as a photograph of the original William Swain letter. It's hard to read this document from the photograph, so someone typed it up for us so we can understand it a little more easily. Look at the letter to the right of this screen. The letter reads, July 4th, 1849, in camp for celebration, 8 miles below Fort Laramie. Dear Sabrina, you may or may not have received some of the many letters I have sent you by traders and others, of many of which I have paid postage of 25 cents. We shall pass Fort Laramie tomorrow, where I shall leave this to be taken to the States. It will probably be the last time I can write until I get to my journey's end, which may take until the middle of October. We have had an uncommon good health and luck on our route, not having had cause of sickness in the company for the last 4 weeks. Not a creature has died, not a wagon tired loosened, and no bad luck has attended us. The country is becoming very hilly, the streams rapid, more clear, and assuming the character of mountain streams. The air is very dry and clear, and our path is lined with wild sage and artemisia. I often think of home and all the other dear objects of affection there. George, mother, who was sick, and of course poor little sister. If I were consistent, I should long for the time to come home when I shall turn my footsteps homeward, but such thoughts will not answer now, for I have a long journey ahead of me yet to accomplish. I am hearty and well, far more than when I left home. That feeling of short breath which troubled me at home has entirely left me. I am also more fleshy. Notwithstanding these facts, I would advise no man to come this way to California. Your affectionate husband until death, William Swain. Wow, that is an artifact from so long ago. I can see from the photo it is a real letter. This letter has survived. It's been preserved, in fact, for more than 160 years. It is hard to know what to make of it right away, beyond realizing that it really is a true letter. Isn't it? It just starts right in, and we don't know who is writing it, or who it's about, or who it's to, or what's even going on. That's kind of how it is in life, though, isn't it? You might find a paper or a map or a photograph, and sometimes you don't know who's in it or why it's important. Sometimes you have to figure out where it comes from and what makes it important. Because this letter, like any primary source, is a real bit of real life, with no one telling me what it means or how to read it, I will have to do some different kind of reading work. I'll have to read it several times, aiming to figure out more of what is going on each time. I need to read this text closely, I mean really closely, to figure it out and to figure out what information it contains that could help me write my own writing project. When you are looking at your primary sources for your essay, think back to this example. You may need to read your primary sources more than once, maybe more than twice. Take a really close look at the information and see what you can use for your essay. Pictures are another great example of a primary source. You can gather information about your topic for your essay just by looking at pictures in your books. For example, look at the picture on the left of this screen. A student by the name of Winnie gathered all that information just by studying that picture. A couple strategies for studying pictures include cutting the picture into different sections so you can study each section carefully. That way you won't miss anything. Then gather information or clues from the picture, for example, the setting or the environment.